You'll learn them again.
I know. Hey guys, welcome back to the Book Club for Movies. It is Friday, February 19th, 2021. It's Amy Lajoie and Mr. Samir Roy here. Happy to be with you guys. We've got a fun show planned today. We have lots of things that we're going to talk about. Hello, Andres! Where have you been? Working? My goodness. How dare you?
It's been so long.
Yeah, and hello, Luke. Hello. So today is Friday, as I said, and we have been doing romance films for a Cult Classic Friday this whole month, being that it is, yes, everyone was very distraught when you had to take off yesterday. Most of all me.
I know, I'm sorry. It was something very sudden that had to be addressed very urgently. So it was just had to go. But we're okay.
Did you have something to do with the Cruella trailer, Andres? Because I did enjoy it. I am excited for Cruella.
I did like that trailer. Because here's the thing. When I saw the image of the movie, it said Cruella and I had a picture of Emma Stone. I was just like, really? Emma Stone is Cruella de Vil? What the fuck is this? And then,
what is this?
And then I actually watched it. I'm like, okay, I'll watch the trailer. Like, I'm just like, what are they going to do with this story? I'm curious to see. Like, it'll give me a sense of whether I think the movie's going to suck or not. And then I started watching it. And I'm like, okay, I kind of want to see this movie now. I don't want to admit it, but this trailer made it look really good. And I'm afraid of being disappointed. But the trailer did make it look very entertaining and looks like Emma Stone has taken the character into like a place I never would have imagined. So I'm very, very curious to watch. I'm much more intrigued now than I was before. So however we have to watch it when it's available, if it's safe to be in a theater, I would love to. Wouldn't that be fun to think like, hey, I might get my vaccine. Maybe when theaters open to a little bit of capacity, I can just put my double mask on and get a ticket to see something in a theater. Oh, happy Friday, Crystal.
Open, I'm going because they opened like a few months ago here, and they were open for a little bit, and I didn't go because I was still like, oh, I don't know. But especially now that my parents are getting vaccines, and my dad is always my movie buddy. We go to the movies together, or we used to go to the movies together a lot, and he's a great date because he pays for everything. We go.
No, I mean, if they got their vaccinations and it's okay to go to theaters to a small degree, if it's considered safe, I think that would be great. Like, my only concern is whether or not it's safe for me to go. That will determine whether I go. And, that's a different choice for everybody to make. I am so excited for when I do find it safe, and hopefully, according to accelerated timelines of more vaccines being available, maybe that date could be sooner than later. So, like, that thought is exciting. I'm like, hey, maybe I'll get to see this in a theater if there's enough time. Like, possibility. That would be a fun first thing to do. I mean, any movie will do, really. But it was nice to have something new and different looking from Disney. That just felt like it had a little bit more of an edge than, like, say, Maleficent, which should have had an amazing edge, and it turned into a story about a woman wanting to be a mother. I mean, that's great, but it just lost me with that story. I'm like, really? This is your update?
It's hard to do a movie centered on the villain and be like, but we need to make her relatable and likable because she's the protagonist. It's like, no, she's the villain. So maybe you'll actually.
I want to see her villainy. I want to see her be super villainous. But I get that there's more dimensions to the Cruella de Vil stories we're seeing. We're seeing there is human emotion there and something going on. And it just seems a more intriguing story. Hopefully, I'm not fooled, but I was fooled by the Maleficent trailer, so who knows?
Yeah,
I'll see it anyways. It's going to happen.
Definitely the most recent trailer that I've been excited for as far as new movies coming out. But let's go ahead and talk about yesterday's film before we talk about the Philadelphia story. Yesterday was another cat movie genre day that we were doing. And yesterday's film was the 1962 animated film Gay Paris with Judy Garland, Robert Goulet, red buttons, Hermione, is it Gingold? Is that her name?
Hermione Gingold. Yes, she's the teacher in Gigi, the one who's teaching Gigi to be the Torch of Sound.
A lot of old, and I had recently just watched her in Bell, Book, and Candle, a movie that Samir had been wanting me to watch. So I had 2 Hermione Gingold movies this week, but she has a very recognizable voice, and she was the Rubenesque pink cat in this film.
She's basically the cat version of her character in Gigi, but like a slightly more devious.
Yeah, but it'd been a long time since I've seen it. Again, I remember watching this movie so much when I was little, and it really did come flooding back to me, like hearing all of these songs I had forgotten about. Of course, anytime you hear Judy Garland sing is always a delight. And for this being like the early 60s, this was so like psychedelic, and the colors were just amazing. You really felt like you're just watching a moving art piece most of the time with these amazing backdrops, and the colors in this were amazing.
The colors are amazing. It was very early 60s, totally. I did think that like the animation style at times was a bit crude.
That is something that's
a little bit flat, a little bit crude here and there. It gave me Hanna-Barbera vibes. Like sometimes, but also like with more depth and more color and more character. Also, I just loved, like, even though it was flat, I loved how they used, like, you were saying when we watched Aristocats, how, the look of the film is, it's more lightly inspired by than derivative of these arts or these famous images of Paris and France that we have. But like this movie is like literally just incorporating them everywhere as backdrops, and then they even have a little mini art lecture on all the French French painters, which I was like, oh my god, I love this. I know this is an educational thing they just like snuck in, but I thought it was so funny and clever and just visually so beautiful to have them mixed into this movie. That was a really lovely surprise, because I don't think I have a memory of watching this movie as a kid. But I also was super impressed by Judy Garland's like voice performance. Like she really gave that cat like a different voice and a different character. It's not just Judy Garland speaking these lines. You know what I mean? She didn't just do herself as a cat. You could kind of hear Dorothy like as a cat almost in this. Couldn't you?
I could a little bit. Yeah. It certainly was. She's like, okay, I'm a character. I'm not Judy Garland. Like I am this lonely French cat who wants to order Champs-Elysees.
Champs-Elysees. It was, oh my god, so freaking adorable. And I was like, I didn't have the greatest end of the day yesterday. So like I'm gonna watch this now. Like as soon as I was done with the work, I was like, I just put it on. I didn't even like wait. And I started texting you, because like the moment that like I just laughed out loud so hard at that moment where it's like, read the poem, and he's like, oh, okay, roses are red, violets are blue, here is a mouse from me to you, signed John Tom. Like best romantic poem ever.
It was funny how, the villain in this is this tuxedo cat, and I've had tuxedo cats pretty much my whole life until now with my cat Lydia. But for him to be the villain, it's like, but we love tuxedo cats. And then he has his minions are black cats. And I remember watching that when I was little and thinking that they were kind of scary. And I watch it now and I'm like, they're so cute.
They're scary, but they're also, I mean, they kind of look like the image of Le Chat Noir. Mm-hmm. Like the famous post of the famous cafe. They kind of look like that also. So it's like another element of French art that's been worked into this film. But I loved that whole like transformation, like the layer, the like lounge. Like I'm like, that's kind of my design aesthetic, is Hermione Gingold's like courtesan maker lounge.
Feline,
the poofs and the pillows and the draperies and the light, and there's like the lounge. Like I don't know, I loved how they did all the cat characters, even if they were a bit flat and crudely drawn at times, because they were not Disney, so they did not have the Disney animators to work with. Yeah, but that's how they made something totally different in their own. And I loved even how that part where they go up the Eiffel Tower and like there's so many beautiful moments that like they really worked with the materials they had and then created something really, really, really cool from those. So I don't see it as like a detriment, but you can just see like, okay, all the technology was at Disney and these guys are working with like what's they can afford that's left over. And you know, it's kind of like when you see filmmakers create something that totally takes you away and you're like, wow, that's all you had to work with. Like it had a little bit of that spirit for me.
Yesterday, after you had to take off, this is the one of two, and this is like the last film that UPA made. I forget what the first one was, but this film ended up being purchased by Warner Brothers and they ended up distributing it. But it was like a very small production company that didn't last long.
Also, that energy was accurate. Because you could kind of feel that you're like, okay, this is what we can do, but like, what can we do within these limitations? What can be accomplished with these materials? And I think they exceeded what what the materials offered them. Like, I think they found a way to exceed that. You can tell they did.
What they might have lacked in their technical abilities as far as equipment, I think they really made up for with the artistry of this film and how creative it was and the fun character design. And I love everything.
Oh my God, and the names.
Like, the names alone, like music.
Meow Reese, I must be paid in full. Like Meow Reese, like just like that name by itself, like I could not stop laughing every time she said it. Hermione Gingold's cat saying it. Or like the purr, the purring lesson.
The cat puns in this were just amazing.
Oh, and like how Tom John, like when he's like,
yeah, like, and he has like his whisker makes a little like viewfinder target
and then that's
his mouse.
So many like see like there's a cleverness like in the humor and a freshness that I think it stands up today. Like it's like, oh, that's like a joke that like how did nobody think of making that joke? Like you're making, you know what I mean? Like you kind of get that out of it. Like people have been trying to make punny movies about animals since, but this one still feels fresh, more fresh than I think some of the ones we've seen in the last 15 years may look in the future, despite the crudeness of its production budget.
Yeah, well, if people didn't see this movie, and if you are a fan of the other French animated cat movie we did, The Aristocats, this is definitely one to watch as well. And I mean, certainly has more songs than The Aristocats and Judy Garland, but it's really just like this. Oh, it's just beautiful. It's just this really beautiful, colorful extravaganza, and I really enjoy watching it.
Crystal's asking, I keep wondering what cat films you guys threw out. So there were some, well, one reason we didn't do one of the ones I thought would have been great was Cat People, the original Cat People. But we actually already done that movie. So I could not justify repeating it. As much as I love the movie, it was like, no, we can do movies we haven't talked about. But that was one that like instantly was like, it's a shame we already talked about it because that would be a perfect one because that movie is full of amazing like cat art, like all over in that movie. So there's so many things that are just like, I want that. In addition to the movie being an amazing, like brilliant work of art. But that was one. What were some other ones that we had talked about?
I was dying to do The 9 Lives of Thomasina, which is a great Disney live action film, but it wasn't available anywhere to stream or rent. So we couldn't do that. And we definitely both decided that doing the most recent Cats was not going to happen.
We're like, I cannot.
To make fun of it. It was something where it's like, I mean, I still haven't seen it, and I actually do want to watch it just to experience it. But you wouldn't assign that film and put you all.
I've seen enough clips of it to be already. It's so disorienting and weird as an experience. The way I can't watch a whole movie of that. I just cannot do it. I think I watched like a very long video that was breaking down the music, like comparing some of the choices they made musically in the film. That's really I think the name of the YouTube channel is called Sideways or something. So I watched this video, and it's like a really long video, but going through all the music, and like they actually show a clip of Betty Buckley's version of Memory, and they're like talking about
I love her. She wants me.
I know. And so they're like, look what she does with this song. And the brilliant, they would show it as an example how you can make a small change here or there to make it your own and really reveal what's great in the song at the same time. And so they show her like, this is what you can do and be amazing. And they show her and they break down the little changes that she adds. It's like her own touch to the song. And they're like, and then when you get to the movie, they do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, these are the many reasons why this is really awful. And so I saw tons of the movie through this video, and I was just like, I can't watch any more of that movie than what I already saw. I just can't do it. So we were both like, no cats. I did suggest Puss in Boots just because it's so adorable, and I haven't seen the Puss in Boots movie. I only remember the Puss in Boots character from the Shrek movie and so I loved him in that movie. And I was like, I don't know how the full length movie is, but I thought that it was a really fun, adorable, brilliant concept for that character. But then Jamie was like, wasn't that good? I don't know what. I just remember you went into it. There were others you wanted more than that.
Yeah, and we have one final cat film for the month, and that is next Thursday. It is Keanu, which neither of us have seen, but we thought that'd be a fun film that could also highlight Key and Peele, some fabulous Black comedians, and we've already talked about Jordan Peele as a filmmaker. So we weren't going to put him in for this month. He's done 2 films. We've already talked about both of his films before because they're so good. Anyways,
he's done other work on television, but those are series, and it's different. You can't really do that on here. So,
but if you haven't,
but I also kept trying to push Amy to do Cat's Eye, the horror movie with little Drew Barrymore with a single like alley cat through 3 different stories, but I could not convince Amy to do it because we couldn't bear to let go of the 2 French movies.
No. Well,
we couldn't let go of either of them, so we're like, okay, we can't cover everything. We're just gonna stick with.
I know we only had 4 cat movie options, and don't limit yourself. If you've enjoyed watching these cat movies, explore some on your own.
There can be more. Watch all the cat movies.
Yes. But if you didn't see Gay Paris, it is available to rent. Again, I just went ahead and bought it because I wanted to relive my childhood, and it
was also only $5 to buy digitally, and like it was like
that's less than I paid for the DVD.
So when it came up, it's like, do you want to buy it or rent it? And I stupidly just hit rent, and I was like, oh well, it's too late now. The movie started, and then I was like, because then I looked back, and I'm like, oh, I thought I said $15.99 or something, but it was like or $14.99. But it was literally like $4.99. It's super cheap. So if it's cute, you got just do it. But from the cat lady world to the world of real romance.
Because this is a very accurate story of romance. The Philadelphia Story. That is this weekend's pick. This film came out in 1940 when a rich woman's ex-husband and a tabloid-type reporter turn up just before her planned remarriage. She begins to learn the truth about herself. Now, this film has a lot of interesting things behind it. So, when this movie came out, Katharine Hepburn was actually considered to be, quote, box office poison. She had already been in some movies that didn't do well, including things like Bringing Up Baby, which is now a classic film that we all love. This great Howard Hawks film, but it didn't do well at the box office. And of course, they blamed it on her and not her co-stars. But this had started out as a play that was written for Katharine Hepburn, and she had been in the play. The play did really, really well. Howard Hughes bought the rights to this play, or just like the rights to the story, and then gifted it to Katharine Hepburn, which then she sold to MGM for quite a bit of money for them to have the rights to then do this film. She then foregoed her actor's fee for being in this film in exchange for 45% of the profits for this film. And this movie ended up being a huge box office smash, ended up like put her back on top. So she really made out quite well with this of, being
I love that story.
Office poison to this incredible film, and whoever labeled her box office poison is stupid.
Well, it was critics, and then LB Mayer used it as a reason to like criticize Joan Crawford at the time, and I think like almost a lot of the actresses who were labeled box office poison, like Joan Crawford was labeled that. She left. She was ditched. She was booted from the studio, and then she won Oscar, and then got like 5 more Oscar nominations or something.
Yeah,
like and look what Katharine Hepburn did. It's like, oh really? Poison. Yeah. Let me show you how deadly poison can be to you.
Other interesting things about this. So Cary Grant was asked to be in this, and he was like, okay. Like, they let him pick any role that he wanted out of these 3 men that are in this, and he picked the role that actually wasn't like the most showy of all of them, which they thought was interesting. He said, I will do this film if I get top billing. Which, yeah, he got top billing, and they were like, yeah, we're not going to put Katharine Hepburn for top billing because she's box office poison, so you can have that. And he also asked for a really big fee. He asked for, I think it was like almost like $200,000 for this film, which at the time was like a huge fee. I mean, he was a big star, but that was just like a ton of money. And he ended up donating all of that money to the British War Relief Fund at the time. Again, this was like, made like 1939, came out in 1940 era. So that's, the US wasn't involved yet, World War II, but England certainly was. And Cary Grant is a Brit, and he donated all of that money, which is pretty cool. Now, James Stewart, he never felt comfortable in this. He was like, I don't know, this role's kind of weird, but he was in this film. He ends up winning Best Actor at the Oscars for this. And that took him, I don't think anyone was more surprised than he was. He wasn't even going to go to the Oscar ceremony. This was at a time where now it's like, you see, if you watch the Academy Awards, they have, this law firm show up with like the winners. Yeah, it wasn't like that. So someone actually, when the award show started that night, called him and was like, you might want to come down here. Dress nice. So he's like, okay. He shows up. He ends up winning, and he has always, he for like the rest of his life maintained, he's like, I'm pretty sure they gave me this Oscar because they didn't give it to me for Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And he felt that this year that Oscar should have gone to Henry Fonda for Grapes of Wrath. And he's like, I voted for him. So he never really felt like he deserved that Oscar, especially for this role, which he was like, this is just kind of laughable that you guys gave me this Oscar. This movie also won Best Screenplay, which the guy who wrote the screenplay for this, he said, he's like, this was like the easiest writing gig he ever had because the play itself was like so perfect. This was also nominated for Best Picture. Katharine Hepburn was nominated for Best Actress. Ruth Hussey was nominated for...
Ruth Hussey is what I always say it.
Yeah, Ruth Hussey was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and Mr. George Cukor was nominated for Best Director. And he is another director that we haven't really talked about yet, but he was quite the partier. I read that he was it was like an open secret in Hollywood that he was gay, and he would have all these like amazing parties. His home was just like this safe haven for men to hang out there and just feel totally comfortable. But he was friends with everyone. It's like Katharine Hepburn would show up there, and everyone just like really, really liked him. And he had like photos of his friends all over his house, and I bet his house and those parties were just amazing.
Yes, well, they also depict them not quite so happily in that movie, in that Netflix series Hollywood. Like one of those parties is like, made to seem kind of gross. Because the party in the show was gross. I don't know what the party that George Cougars were like. They didn't seem like that. So I was that's one of the things about that show that I didn't quite like. But no, George Cougar was pretty much up there. He had all the best people at his parties. You would have wanted to be at a George Cougar party if you wanted to be thought of as anything in Hollywood. If you weren't invited there, it was like, you be as popular as you want. Like, this is the group that you want to be a part of. You want to be invited here. If you're not invited here, then you're never really in Hollywood. You know, he kept a long career going too. I mean, he also brought Judy Garland's career back from the dead with A Star Is Born. You know, like he's
My Fair Lady.
He needs to be a Director Tuesday all on his own.
I know. Yeah, maybe we'll have to do My Fair Lady.
He even directed some sequences in Gone with the Wind as well.
He did until I was reading about he had a very long history with David O. Selznick. And there were some things saying that Clark Gable is the one that kicked him off that project. But I read one thing because Clark Gable was pretty conservative, and there was some rumor that it's like, oh, like he kicked him out of Gone with the Wind because he's gay. But some other things I read were saying like actually it was just David O. Selznick and George Cougar had a disagreement. And that's how we got about it.
I forgot which sequences they were in that movie. I think they said it was the Thousand Oaks barbecue. Like that part of the movie reflects some of his work, and you can kind of tell stylistically that is smoother than some of the later sections of the movie, which is when you can tell Victor Fleming took over the whole directing job. But no, George Cukor is amazing. There's so many movies to explore with him as well. And a lot of great stories from his career. And this is, of course, one of his most famous and most successful achievements. I had totally forgotten that Jimmy Stewart won the Best Actor award for this movie. It seems so unlikely because we see all the other movies that we've seen him in. I'm like, you mean you didn't win for Vertigo? You didn't win for this? You didn't like...
Nope.
Seems odd, you know, but that's just how it worked out. I think Henry Fonda eventually did get an Oscar, but I mean, if you have seen The Grapes of Wrath, I don't think you would disagree with Jimmy Stewart. Not that he's not lovely in this movie, but you know, they're very different levels of acting required for Grapes of Wrath than this guy.
Yeah, this movie is also, this has been said to be the best romantic comedy ever made by some critics.
That's not a quantifiable statement in my view. I think that there's no one best of anything in any capacity. I don't believe in that kind of ranking. So, it's not like the way a news program would get away with saying we're the #1 news broadcast, and then you're like, well, you don't have the top ratings. Like, yeah, but we have the highest likability rating for our anchors, so that makes us #1 in that sense. So you know what I mean? Like you could say we're #1, and it could be true as long as it's true in some way. Then you are covered legally. Even if you're like we're #1 in toxic waste, #1. We said we were #1.
But is a great example of like kind of coming out of the screwball comedy era, which featured or kind of like one of the characteristics of a lot of those was featuring like the upper class. And this is definitely like an East Coast, like very preppy, rich people type of thing. And there's this great quote about this that says, so MGM and director George Cukor have graciously made it apparent in the words of a character that one of the, quote, the prettiest sights in this pretty world is the privileged classes enjoying their privileges. And so, in this instance, will you too.
That is a very acidic comment. In praise of this film. It's true. That is a frequent thing where it's kind of like rich people are crazy.
Yeah.
It's a great subject for comedy.
Based, I think Katharine Hepburn's character for the play was based on a real socialite which is kind of like known for her crazy hijinks. And she's like,
well, the dizzy heiress is
I don't
a
work,
common
I'm just
trope.
rich, so I have time to make people's lives crazy.
The dizzy madcap heiress is like a thing in a lot of these movies, Also, I would say Crystal mentioned something about your look today.
Oh, thank you.
She's like, I liked your retro look, I think, or something like that, somewhere up there. And I was like, oh, well, didn't you say you were inspired by something or someone in particular?
Well, of course, Miss Katharine Hepburn. And tonight I talked about this yesterday, but I'm doing another one of my little dinner things again with my family. This is the TCM movie night menus book. And there is a Philadelphia Story menu. We will be having a stinger for a cocktail and also some champagne. And then we were going to have a upscale cheesesteak with truffle brie, which I had to go to a special store just to get.
Truffle brie.
Truffle brie. Yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like. Like, oh my God.
It does look very tasty.
Can't wait. It looks so good.
Because it's Philadelphia.
Tonight, so I will be doing that. Yeah, now that I have shorter hair, it's easier for me to pull off some retro hair looks. But this movie, The Philadelphia Story, is available on HBO Max, actually, randomly. So if you have HBO, you could watch this. Otherwise, you were going to have to rent this. Yeah, it's Friday. It's Patreon Appreciation Day. Why don't you read off those names, Samir?
Oh, yes. So we want to thank our screenwriter tier patrons, Aunt Julia Lejoie. Thank you. Thank you. And my dear friend, Crystal Maya, and unofficially but officially Walter Murray, who's listed as day player, but he wants to keep that role on here, but he does always contribute privately to make sure to garner the help in us choosing movies for each month. I want to thank all the production assistants who stuck with us this whole time. Nicole, I can't see it as big as you, so I'm just going to go with the first names. I know everyone's first names. Sorry, everybody. Nicole, Andres, Donna, and Brian. Brian, I think, is new. I'm saying Brian Pachiliak is how it's said. That's my
last week,
stab at it. But Donna and Brian, I think, are the newest production assistants to join our little show. And we thank you all so much, because it makes us feel loved.
It does. Yeah, it really does make a difference. And we do not get paid to do this. I've been doing this for almost a year and a few weeks, and Samir joined me not too long after that, like a couple months into me doing this. And it all adds up. Again, it costs $30 a month for us to just even use what we're going live on. And then, after that, we just pay for streaming services and rentals and just kind of like our time. But we really just enjoy doing this so much. We've been working on our calendar. So if you're thinking of being a screenwriter for this next month, get on it like this weekend, because we're probably going to have our calendar for March finalized by like Monday, maybe Tuesday. So get on it. I think we have I guess we officially have 2 spots left. Again, Walter's kind of, I don't know. Anyway, get on it if you want to pick a movie for next month, because spots are filling up real fast. But speaking of next week, let's go through what we're going to be talking about next week. I'm going to go ahead and hide us here. So we've got, we're finally going to watch Judas and the Black Messiah, which is available on HBO. It just came out. So if you really want to watch it, just wait till Monday and we can all watch it together. Tuesday, we were watching Poetic Justice. Wednesday, we were watching Sounder with the late, great Cecily Tyson. The 25th is our last cat movie of the month, Keanu. And on the 26th, we are doing our last romance cult classic Friday with the Broken Hearts Club, which I haven't seen.
Well, you will.
I will. Actually, I haven't seen any of the movies for next week.
Well, one of them's new. I know it's been hard to hold off on Judas and the Black Messiah because it's been advertised on almost every video I watch on YouTube or anything else. There's like always an ad. I'm like, I want to watch this right now. I'm gonna wait. I'll wait.
Luke, it's not Poetic Justice is not a documentary, but Tupac is in it. In addition,
yes, it is a fictional narrative film, yes. But also it's not Janet Jackson.
Yeah. Really great week to finish off the month.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. And I think when we get to that day, Luke, also, when you see the actual poster, you may have some sort of residual memory of it if you've ever been to a video store, because I always remember that video box of that movie, like very, very vividly. We'll get to it. We'll talk
about it. That'll be on Tuesday. But this weekend, please watch The Philadelphia Story. Again, this is available on HBO Max, otherwise available to rent. Always watch your movies legally. This movie is it's so fun. Yeah, I hope everyone really, really enjoys this. I'm excited to revisit this film.
Yes.
I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Join us on Monday as we discuss The Philadelphia Story after the fact. Do not confuse it with the movie Philadelphia. Very different films.
Very different films.
Very different films. Watch The Philadelphia Story, 1940. Oh, I forgot to mention one other thing. If anyone has seen the musical High Society, that is a musical retelling of this film. Just kind of like the same concept. Yeah, but Philadelphia Story. And then join us on Monday as we discuss, why do I always forget his name? Daniel Kaluuya? That's his name, right?
Yes, from Get Out.
I know. He's someone, it's like, I'm so bad with names. Like, I know exactly who he is. I really like him. Like, why do I always forget his name? And we're talking about him on Monday. Yeah, Daniel Kaluuya. Really, really excited to dive into him and see this movie. I'm going to take a wild guess and think that maybe he could get nominated for Oscars, because
I'm getting that vibe too, actually. I can feel that being the outcome of this film. I think it's going to get some nominations.
I think it is too. Too late for the SAG Awards and Golden Globes, but not for the Oscars.
Not for the Oscars, which I still don't know when the hell it's happening. But we'll watch The Philadelphia Story this weekend, and we'll
8th. It's like it's late. The Oscars are really late this year. April 25th.
When are they announcing the nominations?
I don't know. Usually it's about a month out from that. I'm pretty sure it's April 25th. And the Golden Globes, for those who are wondering, are on Sunday the 28th. So those are a week from Sunday. Yeah, if anyone likes award shows, like I do.
Amy's going to be busy that day.
I am.
Can't wait to see the hair she does for that.
And thank you guys for watching. Thank you for all your comments, and we'll see